Oh look, Villainous V finally uploaded. I wonder what he uploaded.
I'm back, bitches. Hello, my fine villains and lovely villainesses. Today, we're going to be going over some survivability for new players and maybe for some vets. But before anything, please help a villainette and let's get started. All right, so we're going to be going over how to modify your Warframe for survivability, because with the new update Isle Weaver coming out, I know a lot of people are going to be joining because Spider Frame. Now, I am going to be talking about that frame. I'm just not going to be doing it in this video. So today I'm going to show you how to determine what your frame can and cannot do and how to modify it for best survival. I look at all the frames into 4 different categories. We're going to be starting with shields, then we're going to go into health tanking, then we're going to be talking about abilities, and lastly the hybrid of the 3. So you get 4 categories, and the last one's going to be a little out there, but you just got to bear with me. All right, we're going to start with shields. Now, I know what you're going to think, V. What makes a frame a shield frame? Or what at least makes any of these frames a frame you've been talking about? Okay, so we're going to be going into Volt here for an example. So you are going to see that if I take primed redirection off, boom, my shields go down. Now, if I was going to tell you what's the difference between a health frame and a shield frame, or the mix of the two, is the first 3 things. So you got the health, you got shields, and you got armor. So right now you got a lot of shields, a little less health, and an almost respectable amount of armor. I say almost a respectable because it's not I like to say 50% and higher is definitely good for a health tank. So as you can see, it's a lot less for those two. You're going to want to get more shields than anything. So that's why I take something like prime redirection or redirection, bam, put that in there. Now, that is really good to start with. You definitely want to have redirection on to increase your shield capacity. Now, I will also say, because you are using shields, you need to understand these 3 things in shields. If you do take toxin, or toxin does bypass shields completely. So if you see anything with toxin, you get the hell out of there because you will die very quickly. Now, when your shield does break, you have 2.5 seconds to GTFO before you start taking health damage. And that's one of the things a lot of people don't understand, is that you do actually have a period of time to, you're like, oh, I got to reposition. That's fine. That's fine. But you also, another thing a lot of people definitely completely forget about is the shield recharge. That's 1 second after you stop taking damage, your shields recharge. And then the last one, it shows you how much shields recharge per scaling with things. So once you do lose your shields, that's how much you're going to be recharged. So we're going to start with the basics here. Besides prime redirection, the mods I would highly suggest on everything, definitely adaptation. I'm going to tell you this, shields and on health, adaptation. You will be getting this on the other side of Isle Weaver. It's going to be when you complete all of the relays and you start doing the arbitration missions, you will eventually be able to get this mod. So I would definitely, once you get all the junctions completed, then I would highly suggest getting that as one of the very first mods you start hunting down. Now, another one besides primed redirection and redirection would be fast deflection, and the one way in the back here, vigilante vigor. Why V should I get either of these two? Well, because they increase your shield regen. So if I don't know, let's take that out and replace auger reach with that. it doesn't look like it does a lot, but if you go up to the shields, you can see that our delay and the amount of shields recharged has increased significantly. So what I'm saying is, if you are going to be wanting something with a decent amount of shields, one of these mods will definitely be perfect. So I wouldn't suggest this one unless you are going to be going with the set bonus. But I would also suggest highly, more than anything, would be fast deflection. So either or is going to be good for you. I would say this one first before the other, because as you see, if we pop that in there, boom, you're actually getting even more than the other one. You could put both on, and a lot of people do put both on. I'm not saying you can't, I'm not saying you can. Now, I would be remiss of myself if I did not put these other two in here, as in catalyzing shields and if I can find it real quick, brief respite. Now you can get catalyzing shields through the Orkin vaults on Demos. They're the ones not on the Necrolisk. They're the ones in the Orkin vaults. If you do the Mirage mission, you will definitely know exactly what I'm talking about. Now you also have brief respite, which is an aura mod you can slap in. This one, whenever you cast an ability, you get a shield regen. On top of that, I also suggest any of the augur mods are definitely a positive, because whenever you spend energy, you also get that back in shields. So with all that being said, that there's definitely a lot of ways for you to modify for your shields. I'm going to talk about a little bit of arcanes, or at least some of them that I would suggest looking out for if I were you. So one of them definitely is going to be Arcane Aegis. Whenever you take shield damage, there's a 30% chance that your shield regens for 12 seconds. Now this one I prefer over Arcane Barrier, mainly because of the cooldown, but if you do have a lot of shields, either or is probably going to be better. Honestly, the insta charge is nice, but that 6 seconds kind of turns me off a little bit. I also highly suggest, if you don't have it, Arcane Energize, because getting that energy is definitely going to help you and your allies out immensely. Now, that's really all I can say for arcanes when it comes to shields, unless you do want to put on Arcane Nullifier, in which case I have no problem with that either way. Arcane Nullifier isn't maybe the greatest one, but if it's one you do have, it is pretty good for at least resisting those magnetic statuses. A lot of words. So the next thing I want to talk about with shields, if you're going to be playing with shields, I highly suggest getting a Sentinel or a beast that has something like this. So as you can see, I'm going to use Worm here. I'm going to show you the mods I suggest. I would highly suggest, if you do not have it, Shield Charger. Shield Charger is good. It increases your shields and recharges them. I would also suggest Guardian, because whenever you run out, you get your shields back as well. Both of them are very good, and I would highly suggest either of them. Basically, you can actually just put the two recharges and then those two on your Sentinel, and your shields will constantly recharge, even if you're not using abilities to recharge your shields. And yes, with Volt, I do have the capacitor, so whenever it deals damage, everyone around me, including myself, gets shields back. So that is another way that you can get shields back through abilities, but you don't have to focus on that. But any of these suggestions are what I would say, highly suggested. Alright, that's a lot to dump on for just the shields. We're going to go over to something I wouldn't suggest for new players, but for players that have been playing for a little bit, have a little bit of experience here, and they kind of know what they're doing. I said kinda because everyone kinda knows what they're doing. So I'm gonna use my prime example is Anaros for health tanking. So we're gonna be getting into this one. All right. Now, as you can see, Anaros has no shields. Absolutely no shields. It's not happening. He's getting nothing back. Period. And as I have stated before, the difference between shield frames and health frames is the obvious. One has a lot more shields and the other one has a lot more health and armor. So obviously this one has no shields, so you're going to be going with health and armor. So we're gonna get into the very nitty-gritty details. Also, one thing I keep constantly forgetting is you can get the blue shards, put them on there for either shields or health. Just gonna slap that in there right now. Kind of forgot about it, but one of the things you can do is put the blue shards on. This is for later games, so new players, you're not gonna notice this until very, very later. So let's get into the upgrades for him. I will say if and or when you get the Umbral mods, and you will get them through the sacrifice, I highly suggest putting all 3 of them on just for health tanks, because you are going to be definitely wanting all of them. Having all 3 of them on at the same time, perfect. Now, that being said, we're going to continue. As I stated before, adaptation's really good for survivability. But as you can see, we have all 3 of these, and Naira's Hatred, which you will get on the other side of the new war. You're not given it, but you can go farm for it. And it gives you a little more health and some duration, which is really nice. But as you can see, we have all of this. Health right now is just health. Honestly, I think for health tanks, if they have a base health regen with skills with mods, I think that would be actually really good for health tanking. But let's go with all the ways that you can be a health tank, essentially. All right, so as I stated, you have these particular mods plus a few other ones. I'm not going to go down the whole list of everything that gives you health, but you got this guy from Demos, that'll give you some health and armor. You also have the Gladiator mods, Gladiator Resolve, and Aegis. These 2 will give you either armor or health. They're really good even if you have them combined. There's a few more, but again, I didn't want to go too in detail with them. Another way for a health tanker to get energy is by putting on either Rage or Hunter's Adrenaline. Now I say either or, it's because it's a difference of 5%. And whenever you get damaged, you get health back. Or whenever you get damaged, you get energy back. So this is really good for if you are using a health tank. If you are going to be getting, if you are going to be doing something like that, you get energy back, and then you could put that into maybe an ability or something else. Now, I am going to say this is something you definitely want to watch if you're playing with people. If not, I would also highly suggest getting the Equilibrium mod. This one you can get from the boss on one of the bosses on Demos, the Lephantis fight. Now, I will say this much. This is a universal mod. You don't have to put this on for health, but I'm about to get into the reason why I just started explaining this one. So, Equilibrium. Health pickups give you 100% energy. Energy gives you 100% health. Okay, so with that being said, let's get into the arcanes of what you definitely could be using if you're going to be health tanking. So I would highly suggest, because if you're going to be having health and armor, again, we're using health tanks here, one of the ones you can use is Arcane Battery. Arcane Battery is actually really nice for one thing. Whenever you have a boatload of armor, you actually get energy back. So if you can't put on flow, this is a good way to work around that. Now, if you have a need for a boatload of health, Arcane Blessing is another good one. I believe you can get Arcane Blessing late. It's a later in the game Arcane. I think it's on the other side of the new war, unfortunately. You can get that through the Archimedia on the Zeraman 10-0. Now for something a little more closer to new players, I would suggest getting either Arcane Grace or Arcane Guardian. Either or the combination of the two is going to be very helpful, because when you get damaged, you either A, get health regen based on a percentage of your health. So the more health you have, the more health you're going to get back. And on damage, you get a boatload of armor for 20 seconds. And either or is very good, or again, the combination of the two. Now, one of the ones I would suggest, and this is me suggesting here, if you do get it, get Arcane Reaper, but I would suggest this one for I would suggest this for if you are just using a lot of melees, because you need melee kills to get a health regen and armor. And it's really nice to have that, but again, you got to get melee kills. So that's a little tidbit there. The other one I would suggest, if you can make it work, and you need to have at least 2 channel abilities, or what I like to call toggle abilities, is Arcane Intention. Now this one, I really wish they would buff it up a little bit, because a lot of the toggle or channel abilities, a lot of Warframes don't have that, and so putting this on is kind of it doesn't make sense to me. Like, there's so much other stuff you could be using. If they just said 1,000 per channelable ability, I would be like, you know what? That works. I'm cool with that. So I think they do need to buff that, or at least 500. At least 500. That way, if you have Gloom and something else on, boom, look at that. You have a free 1,000, and then you don't need to worry about health that much. It's one of those things that grinds my gears. What do you want? Now, the very last thing I do want to talk about for health tanking, and this is Arcane, I would suggest, I know a lot of people would be like, well, there's a bunch of other stuff you can use, but I'm going to suggest this one, Molt Reconstruct. And this one, a lot of people look at me and go, but why? Now, I say this because you can heal yourself and allies within affinity range 6 health for every energy point spent on initial casting cost of abilities. Now, I'm not 100% sure about this one. I want to say, because I'm looking at it, kind of going back and forth in my head. Now, I think it's the initial cost of the ability. So if your ability initially costed 100 energy, it's going to give you 600 health. Now, with if you put Blind Rage on, which lowers your efficiency, and you can get Blind Rage through the Orcan Vaults on Demos, and you'll know exactly which ones I'm talking about if you play the Mirage quest. Basically, you need the Dragon Keys in order to use them or get into them. But that's another video. But this particular one, whenever you cast, you'll be able to heal yourself. And I think that's actually really good to have passively in a party. So if you're going to be having a lot of health and then just keep casting, you're not only healing yourself, but you're healing your party. That's why I say this one is a good combination with Rage. So you're constantly healing yourself and getting energy literally for just getting hits. Alright, that's a lot to say on health tanks. We're going to go into something I think is a little bit easier, ability frames. Now, what do I mean by ability frames? I mean frames that solely focus on my ability keeps me alive, and that's good. So we're going to go with something a little closer to new players, because again, trying to keep new players in mind here, so that when they come in, they can look at it and go, oh, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. So we're going to start with Rhino. I know, very controversial, why Rhino? Well, Rhino actually uses an ability called Iron Skin. Iron Skin gives you, and we're going to go into the actual thing here. Iron Skin gives you Overguard. Overguard is like a second set of health, and I'm classifying that as part of the abilities because no one just immediately gets Overguard. And a quick breakdown of Overguard is you're just immune to status effects, but you still take the status damage. And then once you go through all your Overguard, then it dips into your shields, then it dips into your health. So having a boatload of Overguard is definitely one of those things you will be wanting for a skill or for an ability Warframe. So that's why I say Rhino is actually a very interesting ability frame. You can't, technically speaking, classify him as a shield frame because he does have a lot of shields, but because of Iron Skin, I'm gonna have to say ability. Now, someone that'll be a little bit more of an ability frame, and yes, this is his meta variant of it, would be Frost. And because if you can get Avalanche's augment, which whenever you hit something, it gives you Overguard per enemy hit. It's definitely one of those frames. This is actually probably the most perfect example in late game for an ability frame, because as you can see, I have no health, no armor. Well, I think maybe an armor. No, not even shields on this guy. It is entirely ability based. So the more stuff for abilities, the better you're off. But like again, I do have a bunch of other stuff for, like I do have this one for shields and stuff. But when it comes to abilities, definitely that. You're also if you are going to be looking for something else, stealth frames. These ones don't put on the back burner. Definitely take a quick look at them. So like Loki, or maybe Ash, or Avara. A lot of people do like Avara. You go invisible and you stay invisible. Enemies don't see you, but you can see them. But watch out for your AoEs, because Avara, if you're using, again, Chest or Prowl to stay invisible, you will notice she doesn't have a whole lot of stuff here. Besides the decent amount of shields, she doesn't have a whole lot of stuff here. So if you do use an ability frame, watch out and just keep yourself alive through abilities. Another one for Overguard I would suggest when you do get your hands on would be Dante, because if you use his light verse twice and then final verse, you'll get the Overguard regen and the Overguard. You'll just keep increasing your Overguard. All right, that's a lot to already talk about. Or that's a little bit for abilities. Hybrids, I'm going to be just talking in general for this one because there's no real one to say. But I do have at least an example of a hybrid, Equinox. Hi, V here. Yeah, after editing all this stuff, looking at all the Equinox stuff, just until they get a rework, I would just not. Here's Nyx, a lot better of an example. For a new player, I think the best example of a hybrid Warframe would have to be Nyx. Now, I know what you're going to think. V, why do you think Nyx actually is going to be a better hybrid? Well, I say that because of her new rework. Actually, Psychic Bolts makes her, if anything, the very definition of hybrid. If not a ability frame, but hybrid definitely. And I say hybrid as in a hybrid of both health, armor, shields, or a little bit of each. And just with Psychic Bolts, you already get armor, shields, and stealing of Overguard. And you don't have to rely on any of it. You can build for literally all of it. So if you want more shields, which this one I have shield builds for her, so that's why I have 2 things of shields. That's why she has more shields than health. But we'll take a quick look at her, how I built her. This is actually probably one of the best debuff for beginner frames, or before beginner peoples. You don't have to have, again, Umbral Intensify, but Intensify and Vitality would be pretty nice. Another thing to slot in if you really kind of want to would be Vigor, either regular Vigor or Primed. That way you do get a little bit more of both. But as you can see, we'd just be getting more shields than anything, so... And that's because we have Umbral Intensify on as well. If we took both of those out, pop that in, I'd still be getting more shields. So it's not really a balanced thing. It's more along the lines of this is a hybrid. I definitely put in Mind Freak just because I like that additional damage. That's really good. Yeah, it's only one person, but like for her, this is amazing. So I have one target I control, sure, whatever, but like I'm also CCing, I'm also making sure that enemies take even more damage, and then I have a, oh no, here we go boys. And then on top of that, because I have this mod right here, I also get 2 seconds of status invulnerability, or immunity at least, which is pretty good. Not the greatest, but is pretty good. You could probably put a bunch of other stuff on that and make it probably last a little bit longer, but it is what it is. Honestly, I think if you are going to start Warframe, Nyx actually is a very good hybrid. Jade is actually more of an example of a hybrid than anything. And you can look at her in a few different ways. So you can either look at her as a shield frame or a health frame. And even if I used this particular one, I do have Arcane Bustling, Arcane Guardian. You literally have an ability that gives you shields back. So that being said, you could just be someone like I if I really wanted to, because of her ability, I can just get shields. I have a boatload of shields. I have a boatload of health, and then I whenever my shields go down, I still have a lot of health to look back on and not worry about myself. On top of that, I also have a way to even regenerate health. So if you are going to be doing a combination of a hybrid, again, as I said, this is definitely someone who has all of it. And it does it to a very good degree. Honestly, if you really wanted to, you could put this as something completely else. Like maybe even Well of Life or even Blood Altar. And then you have all of your healing. Hell, if you wanted some crowd control, you could put Condemn down. The Harrow's ability that'll chain enemies in place, and you get shields back. There are so many ways that you can mod and customize in Warframe to make it so that each and every one of these frames is customized to your design. I'm just here to tell you, hey, listen, whatever you want to play is perfectly fine. You want to be invisible the entire time because you want to ninja. Hey, look at that. Literally, we have Ash. He's literally the Ninja Warframe. I don't know how else to describe it. He is the Ninja Warframe. If you wanted to be the tankiest of tanks and you really do like Rhino, I mean, Rhino looks cool. Boom. He's a tank. Hell, if you even go to survivability, I think he's at the bottom there. He definitely should be on the list. There, yeah, there he is. Boom. You have a lot of people for survival. Hell, you want support? Boom. You want some crowd control? Boom. You want some pure damage? We'll talk about damage in another video, but again, we're doing survivability here. I think a lot of these frames are highly survivable. No idea about Nezha besides the one ability, but that's an interesting one. The only reason for Revenant, definitely because of his Mesmer skin. Other than that, good luck on that one. But there's a lot of these frames that you could definitely be playing with and toying with. But the choice is yours. Anyways, before I start ranting and raving, I want to thank you all for watching. I know I haven't been uploading in quite some time. It's been a minute. I think with everything that's been happening the past few months, I needed my vacation. My vacation was coming up. A lot of stuff has changed in my life. A lot for the worse and a lot for the better. So I am back. I do have a second channel that I have also been putting time and effort into. If you haven't seen it, it is called TennoCast, where I'm the host. Me and my co-host AOB Paladin, we talk about everything Warframe, and yes, it's from the Timcast Discord. So hey, if you like this channel and you want a podcast to listen to once a week, boom, look at that. I got one for you, and we talk about everything. Anyways, thank you for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, share this with all your friends, because why the hell not? And thanks for watching. Stay villainous, take care, and goodbye.